Welcome back, friends. So we talked about having the mother is modeling what it is to be submissive. So she's showing the children how to give respect to those various modes of authority that we all encounter in our life. So helps understand God's authority. So, all right, here I think here comes it comes into the point here. Logically, too, for anybody who believes in a personal God, there has to be a strong recognition of and example of authority in the family if all concerned are to understand the authority of God. It is necessary for the father of a family to know he has authority and use it if he is to recognize God's authority over him. Do you see? If he doesn't know about himself, he's not going to know about God. Let's see. It is necessary for the wife to recognize and submit to the husband's authority if she is to understand God's authority over her. It is necessary for the children to have an observable model of authority, used and heeded, and to follow it themselves if they are truly to be submissive to God. Where the authority is over-exercised or mean, children will tend to fear or rebel against God. And here's the part where we don't necessarily attend to. Where it is under-exercised, they will tend to have a sentimental buddy-buddy relationship with God and minimize his laws. The end result for all concerned will be, and Sarah said this, a loss of happiness. Happiness comes from the keeping of the right order of things as ordained by God, just as health comes from keeping a right order of many parts in the body and a correct balance of emotion and the spiritual side of a person. Order is heaven's first law. Disorder means trouble, loss of smoothness, loss of function. This applies to an automobile engine and to a human body, and it applies more to relationships between persons, and most especially of all, to creature persons, to their creator person, capital P.
Yeah, I mean, if that has to be obvious to everyone with eyes, that we have, I mean, perhaps one could argue that 100 years ago we had deviated so strongly to the rigid authoritarianism of the husband, which I deny. I don't think that that's actually true. But I mean, let's say that, for argument's sake, and all of the fantasies of the modern feminist, right? I mean, let's give them their just desserts. It has to be painfully obvious that we have so gone overboard on the other side and created an untenable sentimentality towards God that he just loves us. Whatever, do what you want. He just loves you.
That's right. I mean, if that's a buddy relationship, to me, that just.
I mean, it's untenable. Who wants the buddy? But I mean, I'm sorry, it really is a little bit of the friction in a relationship that keeps it interesting. At some point, you become like even in the relationship, how we were talking about before, that the husband, we've become habituated to virtue and we do good things. That doesn't mean that it's, boring, right? I mean, there's because God is gracious and he also gives passion to a marriage, right? So that relationship that becomes just platitudes of goodness becomes so boring. And no one, like that person who doesn't challenge you, who does not move you to a little bit of passion, to a little bit of heat or whatever, some type of recollection of self that is not comfortable, will soon cease to be your friend. And that is exactly what these people have. They become buddies with God to the point that they've dropped him.
They minimized his laws and they dropped him.
Yep. Well, I mean, what is a tame God? I mean, isn't that line from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where whatever, they're talking to the beaver and they're talking about, is he a tame lion? And it's like, tame? No, I mean, my heavens, no, certainly not tame.
Right.
Loving, yes, but tame, no. And who would want to serve a tame God, or a eunuch God, or a God with his tail between his legs? I mean, no wonder these people are leaving, because they've never been introduced to the Father. And you're right. I think a lot of it is because they've never seen anything worthy in their parents' marriage that would be worthy to submit to.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
And why so many of them perhaps are submitting to the state so quickly, because they're desirous of submitting to something that will make demands on them, even though the demands are going to yoke them to hell, frankly.
There is that need for right authority, and if we don't find it in an ordered, right, respectful of persons and the dignity of persons, you're going to get it under the jackbooted thug of a whole bunch of other things. Absolutely. Now, I have a very brief, and some of you all are going to be all upset, and so maybe Sarah's agreeable, we might revisit this topic. But it is not in the catechisms, neither in the Baltimore one, not in the, hate calling it the Norafchio one.
Yes.
That's such a bad taste right at the moment.
Yeah.
But it is, for my mind, it's almost a dictum that if I see a successful, happy, the 4 F's kind of a marriage, I will see tithing. I will see a very generous, and does that mean that I'm not in there? But you can get to know people, and you can kind of know how that works in their life. Right. I know the first disagreement within God's people was Cain and Abel. I know that. But tithing has both a practical, like Father was saying here with authority, has both a practical and a spiritual component to it. The practical side, to have a successful tithing, is that there's going to be a budget running.
Right. Yes.
That's how you, if you want to tithe, we can come back and define tithing. I'll let Sarah maybe define it. But the spiritual is that, okay, I'm giving 10% up at the beginning of the month. I have a spiritual reliance on God. Right. And whether one knows it or not, I believe it's in Malachi 3, whether one knows it or not, you just put God to the test. And that's the one point he wants you to test him on, is his generosity. See, right. See, O Israel, if I can't, increase your whatever.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's very true. I think that it tends toward the fact that innately, that a couple that is not generous cannot easily receive the generosity of God. There is a mystery, and I do think that it's a profound mystery, one that the couples themselves are not even aware of, is the profundity of awe that the man and the woman have, that they can beget new life. And I think it's why so often it is sterilized by them, because it's a power that they think they just don't want, because it's very powerful, right? I mean, to be able to bring forth new generations of people. And so I think that you would also find a corollary between couples who are open to new life are also going to be open-handed with their money, and people who are close-handed in regards to having children are going to be very stingy with their cash. And that has detriments both, like one is a detriment spiritually and one is a detriment of materially, right? Both of them are paucities to the human imagination and to the human intellect. They become very closed, whereas a life that is open to to new children, to new possibilities, is always general. I think it's generally true that they are also more free-handed, because even people like the Bill Gates people will then say, well, he's very generous. No, he's not. He has put very, very stringent parameters on how his money can be spent in the future. A person who gives just gives. It's sadly a result of, I think, the modernist and Marxist element into the church that has made many of us that people. So as I was saying, it's only in this modern period, right? I would say within the past 60, 70 years that people have I don't even know if that long, that we've been concerned to not freely put money into the hands of our pastors, into the hands of our bishops, into the hands of our pope. This is a new thing within the Catholic Church, that we would ever think that we needed to put a limit to the charity that the church could bestow, right? Because we would have always believed her to be eminently charitable, more charitable than we ourselves could be on our own. So I think that is that's a sad reality that is going to have to be corrected in the future, that bishops have been profligate with our money in ways that we would never have imagined. But even that can't prevent us from being generous. We have to find new avenues because the human person needs to be generous, because otherwise, I think intellectually and psychologically, it's very difficult to receive something so freely from God. How does one accept the sacrifice on the cross? Right? How does one freely accept that? How does one receive charity if one is not able to also give?
Very true. Very, very true. And a priest recently said that he notices a quickening between those those wives who have been on birth control and those who have not. Those who have been there's a hesitancy in their yes, their generosity, right. And those who have not, there isn't there.
Right. And I like that term, a quickening. It's the hastening of the Virgin to go to Elizabeth, right? She made haste. Like once grace is imbued to her, she immediately has to share it.
That's right.
And really, that is the whole. I mean, what a generous God. I mean, that he permits a man and a woman in a covenant of love and marriage through this amazing sacrament to cooperate with him to bring forth new children.
It is. It is. It is.
I mean, it's a profound goodness that I'm fearful that we are about to lose.
That's right. All right, my friends, that kind of says a few things. I do have an addendum we did not go into. One's on Constant Kenobi from HLI, another on Humanae Vitae. I do take an excerpt out of it, and believe it or not, it is from, American Magazine. So, I have it in
from 1965.
Believe it or not. Oh yes, 2014.
that does belong almost in Ripley's Believe It or Not.
It does, and so every so often, if you can pull a good one out, I do.
Right. Well, the blind pig finds an acorn every now and again.
It does indeed. All right, my friends. Till the next time, Fides Oratio.